Good morning, preppers. Happy prepping day to you. Every day, of course, is a prepping day. And time is short when you're a prepper because you know what? Things are coming that are not looking so good. All right, today's video, please bear with me. I've made some connections here I want you to see. And I mean, perhaps you already made these connections anyway, but I want to show you something that's actually very intriguing, if not frightening. Okay, start off with, I want to show you a little meme or thumbnail or whatever you want to call it that's been flying around that says, Elon Musk says, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. Okay. Which I'm not saying I put all my faith in Elon Musk or anything like that at all, but it's interesting how he puts out this specific terminology. Now, I noticed with this specific thumbnail or again, whatever you want to call it, that they always cut it off and say he's summoning the demon. So what is he talking about? Is he talking about some kind of spiritual warfare and stuff? With Elon Musk, I highly doubt it. So what is he talking about? That's the connection I want to show you. So let's go ahead and look at our next slide. And this is interesting. Of course, a lot of the stuff we already know. PBS Wisconsin, this is all just recent news. Total number of police in Wisconsin at historic lows. Yeah, of course, we have the defund the police stuff going on. Cops say low morale and department scrutiny are driving them away from the job. From the Police Executive Research Forum, a study shows that staffing decreases over the past 2 years. Of course, we've seen a lot of this stuff that's going on as far as the defund the police, or as I'm going to go ahead and put it, defund the police crap. Because I don't know about you, but where we live, the police here are fantastic. In fact, we're actually friends with them. They are incredibly serving for the public wonderfully. Even when we actually had our meetup in Clare, Michigan, a couple months ago, we were going to show some of the different types of, that YouTube doesn't let us talk about. And I just went in there to let you guys know, hey, we're going to be showing these. They're like, oh, no problem. Thanks for letting us know. And they even stopped by too. It was kind of funny that, the police showed up as we head out some of the different ones. But they're all cool about this. And the way I see it, when you actually talk about federal government kind of coming down on us and stuff, I think one of the only defenses we have, besides the Second Amendment, mind you, is the police force. I find the majority of the police force, the majority of them are on our side and also are freedom-loving individuals who have our backs. And therefore, I have their backs too. I hope you agree with that. If not, that's fine. It's a free country. You can decide whatever you want to. But with a defund the police, it seems to be, whenever you say the word it seems to be, this is where we talk about usually the orchestrated plans that the elites have on our country. It seems to be they're trying to do away with our local law enforcement. Of course, you would actually ask the question, why? Well, that's it, because of control. Because you have to understand, first off, the federal government cannot force local law enforcement personnel to enforce federal laws. Do you know that? They can't do it. So if Congress, Senate comes out with a law that says this and this and this, the local law enforcement could say, I'm not going to follow that. I'm not going to observe these laws. I'm not going to enforce it. And we often see different sheriffs have blatantly said, go ahead and try certain confiscations of certain things and try to go ahead and put this through the federal government. I'm not going to enact this. In fact, they'll say, if I have to, I'll deputize every person in this county. The federal government, for some reason, doesn't like that too much. And we all, of course, know the reason why. It really puts a kink in their plans as far as whatever those plans might be. Well, the plans, of course, ultimately are control. And so we see this. Look at this. I forget what this article this is from, but it says Congress can't do much about fixing local police. But they can tie strings to federal grants. In other words, they're admitting they can't do a whole lot as far as trying to get the local police to enforce their laws that they're putting out, but they can actually do this. And sure enough, there is a moron senator who is considering defunding the police who won't enforce gun laws. Now, I want to stress it again. We're not talking about just gun laws. There's so many different laws on the books that the federal government wants to put out that we the people are saying no, and therefore we'll often see local law enforcement is also saying, no, you're not going to do this, federal government. The original Constitution was written in a way, the checks and balances, that the federal government's here and the state level's here, and the federal government, no matter what people think, doesn't superimpose the states. And if anything, the states superimpose the federal government because they are supposed to be a thing where they represent us as far as our views, even though we're seeing this further and further from the truth. All right, so what's this have to do with Elon Musk talking about artificial intelligence? And that's, of course, what we're getting at in this particular video, is we're talking about artificial intelligence being their solution. Not to mention the central bank digital currency, not to mention trying to do everything online, not to mention trying to segregate us and keep us at home, actually have work from home, everything else from home, because they really want to have control over the whole situation. Now, AI is very interesting, but extremely frightening if you really start reading about it. I mean, we're talking about, understand, 20 years ago, they already had computers in place, like in Chicago, that if you actually had a car driving around, well, they don't call it the Sears Tower anymore. In my mind, it's always the Sears Tower. Driving around the Sears Tower, and they could actually tell the AI, hey, keep an eye on through the cameras, the billions of cameras around the country, literally billions. And if you see a car circling the Sears Tower 3 times, that might be a terrorist. Or they could actually put the preset 4 times. And it can actually read all the license plates as it goes around. It can actually watch its behavior and actually try to analyze what's happening there. This is over 20 years ago. Let's not even talk about what's happening today and the countless amounts of cameras out there. Now, granted, if you do commit a crime, local and law enforcement often will go to businesses and say, hey, can I go ahead and get this video feed because I think the criminal may have ran by your store, for example. So local and law enforcement does do this, but it really is about simply solving crimes. It's not about government overreach and surveillance. AI is getting further and further worse. In fact, I brought my cell phone down with me today because if you didn't know it, your cell phone can and will record everything that you say. It listens to you, even if you're actually not on a call or texting. It can record videos at any time. And if you're like, oh, they can't do that, you gave them permission to do this. Because when you actually get your phone, yeah, I've got a new phone, and you're going through it, it says, do you agree to our policy? Yeah, why not? Because you know if you don't agree to it, you can't use your new phone. And the phone companies literally have it set up that they can actively survey anything that you do. And it's interesting, this is obviously planned, that the modern phones, it's really difficult to get the battery out because you would think that once you turn off the phone that it can't do that anymore. No. Back in the day, in the military, we'd have to take our batteries out of these devices. Well, when I was in the military back then, there wasn't cell phones like this, but you have to take the batteries out because that's the only way to ensure that nobody's tracking you. And you know what? It's really difficult to take the batteries out of these things now. So AI, instead of actually having a person sitting behind a screen saying, oh, let's watch Eric today and see what he's doing, there's way too much data coming in, way too much. So instead they have AIs filtered out, sorted out, and basically raise these flags, kind of like a car going around the Sears building 3 times and say, look what Eric's doing now because he's mentioned this word, this word, this word, this word, this word. And how do you think YouTube flags our videos? Same thing through AIs. Hey, if somebody talks about this and this and this and this, you might want to look into it, flag the video, shut it down, give them a warning, give them a strike, kick them off YouTube. So this is what we're looking at as far as the substitute for law enforcement. You understand this, that here's the connection. I want you to see that the elites are trying to make it so local law enforcement's not there anymore to help us protect us and keep us safe. Instead, we see a plethora of computers and cameras popping up everywhere. So the more they can defund the police, take away actual police who are on our side, flesh and blood people who understand us, take them out of there, and now actually have an AI step in place, and the AI can completely watch everything and make it literally a police state without actually having local law enforcement. Personally, I think what's going to happen is the police are going to become federalized. I think that's what's going to happen. So AI, as it becomes more and more intelligent, we're going to see, obviously not simply just jobs being taken away from people, but local and law enforcement taken away. Then at that point, there's nothing standing between us and the federal overreach. Well, there is other things to keep us in that case in case that happens, but we need to keep this in mind. So when we go back to Elon Musk saying with artificial intelligence, we're summoning the demon, I'm not so sure we're simply just talking about a demonic entity coming in, but let's go ahead and take a look at the entire quote. I'm increasingly inclined to think that there should be some regulatory oversight, maybe at the national or international level, just to make sure we don't do something very foolish. I mean, with artificial intelligence, we're summoning the demon. And I think that's what he sees, because Elon Musk, say anything about him, good, bad, whatever the case may be, he is an entrepreneurial and computer genius, what he's actually done. And I think as far as having your finger on the pulse with AI, I think you're not going to find somebody who actually has a better finger on the pulse than him. You know, can we believe everything he says? I don't know, but it is something very interesting to look at, because when we talk about summoning this demon, I think this demon is our new law enforcement that's going to come down through AI. I don't know. What do you think? I'd like to hear your comments below to see if you believe or agree with what I'm saying here. And also, do you think that's going to happen? Are we going to eventually get rid of law enforcement? I sure hope not.